Welcome, everybody, to another episode of A Flawed Man of God. How are you doing this evening, everybody? I'm your host, Stuart Davis, Flawed Man of God. I'm a deacon of a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm trying to do here is just talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about a wide variety of different issues, topics, and current events, and give you my perspective on them, one that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it right each and every day. Sometimes I'll get it right, sometimes I'll get it wrong. But either way, I'm going to be here talking to you about it. So, if you're somebody who is new to Christianity, somebody who may be curious, searching for something, maybe there's a voice in the back of your mind wondering if there is more to to your existence than just this life here on earth. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Hopefully you find this to be the relaxed, informal, and comfortable stream to talk about God and maybe answer your questions a little bit without all the scholarly input and maybe intimidating book knowledge that others might present. This is a very lay approach here, and hopefully we can give you some sort of insights that might help springboard you into a relationship with God. Hopefully, I can dispel any rumors you might have or preconceptions, some stereotypes that the Bible is boring, full of judgment and rules. The church is full of people who are self-righteous and sanctimonious. And while there is a bit of truth to that, there's way more to what Christianity is and what faith is and what Scripture is. Yes, there's rules, there is laws and judgment in the Bible, but as we've found out through our readings here, there's way more to it than that. We have prophecy. We have stories of heroism, great heroes doing great deeds. We have cataclysms. We have acts of love and devotion. We have betrayal. We have kings. We have conquerors. We have loss. We have sin. We have salvation. We have sacrifice. We have grace. And throughout all of this, you'll find that there's way more to what we talk about and what we believe as Christians than maybe you had any idea of. And yes, there are bad churches out there. There's no getting around it. Any time that you have something dealing with great faith and hope from people, you'll find bad actors out there trying to take advantage of things. But there's good churches, good, wholesome communities dedicated to the fundamentals of God, the commandments that He's laid down for us, Scripture that He's given us, and folks that want to facilitate that Christian family that Christ commands of us. Is one of the other things you'll see in Scripture is the foundation of our church and how we're supposed to run it and how we're supposed to treat each other. And it all should come second nature. But at the same time, we also have to fight some of our urges to teach us to be less than brotherly to our siblings in Christ. So if you already believe in God, you already well established in your faith maybe, and you just enjoy Christian topics and conversations, welcome as well. Glad to have you here. We run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. As I said, comfortable, relaxed, informal. You'll find a great group of folks in the chat, regulars who tune in night in and night out and offer their wit, perspective, and commentary. And I'd love for you to be part of that chat, regardless of whether you're a Christian or not. If you've got questions, ask them. If you think that I'm right on something, let me know. If you think I'm wrong, tell me. Let me know if whatever we're discussing you have some insights or impressions of. Maybe you have a particular experience that scripture or the topic we're discussing really hits home about. So, with that said, welcome to tonight's stream. It is Thursday, and I brought my friend here. This is my pupper. She's being lazy right now. Normally, she spends the day barking at everything, every noise, every single squirrel that runs across the yard, every single, I don't know, if the sun ray moves too much coming out in the window, she'll start barking at it. But for some reason, she's being lazy, right? Pupper. What's up? Pupper. Look at me. Look at me. What are you doing? It's my doggo. She a good dog. She's a good dog. So say hi. Say hi to the doggos. Nico's here in the chat. Dresden coming in second. Matthew Felty, a very appropriate third place. Porcupine fourth. Hello, gents, as well. Hello, Porcupine. And yeah, hopefully your daughter is doing better. Yes, Blaine, welcome as well. It is a dog. I know it doesn't look like one. She can be more of a pig. She has a snout like a pig. She oinks like a pig. She has ears that if they just flipped over, they would be like a pig. She is built like a pig. And she's got almost a curly tail like a pig. That is, in essence, the Boston Terrier. Me and my wife have had a Boston Terrier since we've been together. This is our second one. You only saw doggo ears. Oh, it's a tiny one. Yeah, it's not tiny for Boston. She's on the larger end, I guess, for Boston's. Not very terrier looking though. The one we had before her, she's almost 20 pounds. She's almost 20 pounds. The one we had before her was about 14 pounds. She was tiny. This porker's much bigger. I think she's just happy she gets to spend some time with me. Good for rooting truffles. Yeah, I guess she hasn't gotten into any shrooms. Ugh. Emmanuel, hello. Rough week this week for me, but it could be worse. Glad I'm here today. Well, sorry your week isn't going swimmingly. Glad that, however, I'm sorry to hear that there are some rough goings. But hey, you can have a good time with us. You can have a good time with us. And like I say, anytime that you can say this could be worse, and you can count your blessings and appreciate a little bit of what you have, you've got a good attitude. You've got a good attitude on things. It's been a busy week. Today wasn't all that busy for me, but it's been an overall very busy week for me. And so I was just really feeling the effects of it today. Or it could be the fact that the temperature is going up and down so much that my sinuses really just want to punch me harder than Mike Tyson if I called him a little girl. And yes, that is a play off of a Casey Jones quote from the original Ninja Turtles movie, Blaine. So, Nico, yeah, hopefully school's going well for you. Said you got midterms coming up. Get that schooling done. Get that schooling done. We're going to do some schooling today. And I really don't have much. In the way of discussing any current events right now. Has anybody got any topics that are pending right now, that are hanging up in the air? Other than Can't think anything. So, regardless, like I said, Emmanuel, glad to see you here. You've been a great addition to the chat. So I'm glad you can find your way here when you can. And if there are troubles going on, hey, just remember this stream is here and God loves you. And despite when you fall short, despite when life gets the better of you and you stumble, despite what other people may say about you, despite what events out of your control happen, that there's a place with a great and powerful being who thought enough of you to bring you into existence, and so that you can experience all the things in your life that you have up to now and that you will, and that you enjoy the sweet more because there is bitterness as well. And we don't know why exactly we were put on this earth before residing in heaven. But as we see throughout Scripture, God has a reason for everything he does. A lot of times we just don't understand it yet. And interestingly enough, if you go through life, you'll notice a lot of things happen in your life to prepare you for what is yet to come. What is yet to come. Nico, maybe topic for tomorrow. I've been hooked on alternative wacky Bible theories like astronaut gods, lol, too much Joe Rogan garbage. Poo-poo. I mean, throw them at me. I might have some knowledge. Like I said, I'm in some ways, I know a little bit of the lore, the deep lore, or some of the conspiracy theories. But in other ways, I'm a total normie. And it's all new to me, and I might not be able to give you any insights. What do you think? Yeah. But bring it on, Nico. Tell us what you've heard, because it's open topic Friday tomorrow night. And guys, you guys can bring the topics. Something that Nernaeth is good at doing. Welcome to the stream, Nernaeth. All right. So where we left off yesterday was with David. We are back into where is it? We are back into covering the beginnings of Israel. We covered Saul briefly. And his life. What was right about it, what was wrong. Nico, I thought that would have been really good for you. What I really want Nico to be is when we talk about Asa again, or Hezekiah. But Asa really just seemed to hit Nico in a good place. So that was a blessing. But right now we're talking about David. Right? Not David as a kid, not David as a Ute growing up. This is David as king. The Chronicles of the Kings. And so we'll pick up after we just discussed his mighty warriors. And interestingly enough, that David was that David was as charismatic, honest, and righteous enough to have these men from different places. I think that's one thing that you might have picked up on. It's, there are all these different tribes that these folks are coming from, and many of them are not tribes of Israel. They flock to him because of what he believed in and what he represented. I don't know how big the ark is, and the Asa ark is in Chronicles. It might be just as short, but we will find out. Porcupine saying daughter still having high grade fever day 2. Prayers, please, guys. Of course. Of course. Hopefully that fever breaks. You get that, you see him in that sweat and you know what happened and you're like, good. Emmanuel says, hey, appreciate it, Nico and you guys. It's just a bunch of stuff. My car's crankshaft sensor messed up, or my computer. My little brother's car messed up, and then a flat tire while on the... Oh, it's just, if it's not the crankshaft sensor, it's the computer or your little brother's car, and then a flat tire while on the highway. Probably the most dangerous right there. It's been fun all the meanwhile trying to get to my trucking school. So much fun. Yeah, as in stress and aggravation, right? Understand. Hopefully you're still getting there. Hopefully you're still down there, yeah. Crankshaft sensor, I think you know pretty quick when it goes bad. You'll know when the crankshaft does. But I've also seen Detroit motors and Cummins motors where just that crankshaft sensor is going bad, and they've got a few of them on some of these Cummins motors. It'll drive you nuts trying to figure out. The truck runs fine. Truck will run great. But then all of a sudden things go haywire because the computer doesn't know what to do when the sensor's going bad. Yeah. Look, nothing's more worrisome when if you're on the highway and that tire goes flat, it's not a fun place to go. Nernea, what about the tribes that left Kobol? I don't know. Nernea. What about them? There you go, Manuel. Still breathing, still here. Still on the stream. There we go. David's house in family. Now Hiriam, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, along with cedar logs, stonemasons, and carpenters to build a palace for him. And David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel and that his kingdom had been highly exalted for the sake of his people Israel. In Jerusalem, David took more wives and became the father of more sons and daughters. Oh, that's right, because he was married to Michal, not dude Michal, but woman Michal. That's Saul's daughter. And while he was exiled on the run, he got a couple more wives while he was out there. These are the names of the children born to him there: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Elpalet, Noga, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Beeliada, and Ephelet. There you go. A little bit of sneak genealogy coming in there. Are you talking about over the road truck? Is that what you mean by OTR? How often do craneshafts break? Not often. Not often. At least not in my experience. Normally what you'll see is a lot of blow by in the turbo. That's normally your indication that your truck's in need of a in-frame. The turbos go all the time. The injectors, that's usually and those rings are expensive. That's like your injectors on a diesel truck it's about a $10,000 repair. Because you never really want to replace one. Once you open it up, you might as well replace them all down there because they're all going to go bad soon or in the near future anyway. So you might as well replace them all at once. It's going to cost more cracking that thing open again and again and again every time you need to replace one or two in fuel injectors. Sounds like big trucking trying to get more repair dollars for a sensor to me. Now that the sensors going bad is not often either, but it happens occasionally. But I don't know. I don't know about it as much. I've never come across it in a car, but I don't deal with that as much, right? I've got much more exposure to diesel engines and high mileage and high idle diesel engines. High engine hours is what I should say, from lots of idling. David defeats the Philistines. Nernath has got the quote for formative years, David, right here. Man's collects wives like Pokemon cards. Yeah. Bathsheba, I choose you. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king all over Israel, they went up in full force to search for him. But David heard about it and went out to meet them. Now the Philistines had come and raided the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of God, shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hands? The Lord answered him, go, I will deliver them into your hands. This is like asking for permission. Dad, can I go to go do this thing? Ask politely. It's something God wants you that is in line with what your dad's told you can do. And it's like, yes, you have my permission. So David and his men went up to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. He said, as waters break out, God has broken out against my enemies by my hand. So that place was called Baal Perazim. The Philistines had abandoned their gods there, and David gave orders to burn them in the fire. Perhaps he should have. Hopefully, it would be better if the false gods had been burned in the fire. Once more, the Philistines raided the valley. So David inquired of God again, and God answered him, do not go directly after them, but circle around them and attack them in front of the poplar trees. So apparently they know this place very well. The poplar trees. Just take them over there. Like it's the backyard. As soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the poplar trees, move out to battle, because that will mean God has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army. So David did as God commanded him, and they struck down the Philistine army all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So David's fame spread throughout every land, and the Lord made all the nations fear him. So the only crank I ever placed was for weight. Yeah. I mean, there ain't a whole lot of that thing to break compared to what else is going on. Like normally crankshaft breaking is like a drag car thing. The race car. That's a race car replacement. Not for the weight. I mean, you might do it for weight, but when they break, usually there's a lot of stress going on in that engine. Nunath, he should have made them fight his enemies' wives. I bet some of those Philistines would have been down for it. The trees were groves where idol worship occurred. Well, good. Good. Get them idols out of the poplar trees. Trees are God's creation. We make paper out of it so we can print the Bible on it. Y'all ever see that Dane Cook stand up? I know some people don't like Dane Cook. I thought he was hilarious. He doesn't do it anymore. I thought Dane Cook was hilarious. But when he talks about the somebody sneezed. I don't know if he was on a bus or on a plane. Somebody sneezed and he said, "God bless you." And the guy said, turned around and said, "I don't believe in God. Thank you." And he basically said, "I hope." He asked him what he believes. He believes that when he dies, he is absorbed into the earth and he'll become part of this great tree. And he goes, "I hope you do become part of that great tree." And some lumberjack chops that tree down and they send it through the mill and turns you into paper and they print the Bible on you. Blaine said, and that's only because they try to save grams while also cramming thousands of horses through it. Yeah. Yeah. I've never come across. I take that back. I've seen it maybe twice out of many, many, many vehicles, maybe twice. And it was old engines that have been through the ringer. The ark brought to Jerusalem. After David had constructed buildings for himself in the city of David, he prepared a place for the ark of God and pitched a tent for it. And no, that's not a boner joke, guys. We're reading the Bible. Get your minds out of the gutter. Yes. make make the non-believers into pages. Oh, you're going to believe one way or the other. Then David said, "No one but the Levites may carry the ark of God, because the Lord chose them to carry the ark of the Lord and to minister before him forever." David assembled all Israel in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord to the place he had prepared for it. He called together the descendants of Aaron and the Levites. Here we go. More genealogy from the descendants of Kohath, Uriel, the leader, and 120 relatives. From the descendants of Merari, Asaiah, and Asaiah the leader, and 220 relatives. From the descendants of Gershon, Joel the leader, and 130 relatives. From the descendants of Elisaphan, Shemaiah, and the leader, and 200 relatives. From the descendants of Hebron, Eliel the leader, and 80 relatives, not as prolific as the rest. And from the descendants of Uziel, Aminadab the leader, and 112 relatives. You join season, sure. The shaft, maybe an accident bending it, but you're already totaled at that point. Oh, yeah, no, it's catastrophic at that point. And usually the U joint seizing, that's further down. That's usually from either a transmission issue or stress that you're putting on it from the transmission or the gear, the differential. Of course, I'm thinking on a rear wheel drive vehicle, not a front wheel drive or a all wheel drive. I'm trying to picture those. So much of what I've done with the full wheel drive vehicles, they're still U joints with a shaft, but it's all coming from the transmission. I don't know front wheel drives or all wheel drives as well. Just haven't been under them enough. Then David summoned Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and Uriel, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab the Levites. He said to them, "You are the heads of the Levitical families. You and your fellow Levites are to consecrate yourselves and bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place I have prepared for it, because it was you, the Levites, did not bring it up the first time." Wait, I feel like I feel like somebody didn't. Let's try a Because you Levites did not carry the ark the first time, the anger of the Lord. Okay. Because you Levites did not carry the ark the first time, the anger of the Lord our God burst out against us. We failed to ask God how to move it properly. There we go. We'll go back to the nib after that. We did not inquire of him about how to do it in the prescribed way. So the priests and Levites consecrated themselves in order to bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel. Because that's his, that's his avatar here. That's his place. That's his spot. So when they refer to the ark, they're referring to God, because that's basically where they're communing with him. And the Levites carried the ark of God with the poles on their shoulders, as Moses had commanded in accordance with the word of the Lord. David told the leaders of the Levites to appoint their fellow Levites as musicians to make a joyful sound with musical instruments, lyres, harps, and cymbals. Lyres, because God don't like liars. The horse heresy is so sad. The horse heresy is so sad. We just can't go down the Logar way, though. Well, if you remember, Lorgar is nonplussed because the emperor says he is not a god and that there is no god. And Lorgar, infantry, he turns to evil, obviously, and he's the first of the Primarchs because crap, who's the chaplain from the word bearers who shows up to the Luna Wolves? Starts it wasn't Ezekiel, but it started with an A. I'm trying to remember. The interesting thing about it is, you think about the perspective of say we live in a Warhammer-like universe. Erasmus. Is it Erasmus or Erebus? Erebus? Maybe you're right. Lorgar is a man looking for worship. God's natural, something natural to us in our creation, that we should seek out the higher power and worship it. Right? And he is told, no, none of that exists. He was told to fight what was in his soul. And as a result, because he put his faith in the emperor and lost it, he went down the path of evil. This is some interesting details about the ark. The interesting details of the ark is, it's a lot of mystery. It's a lot of mystery around the ark, and there's a lot of mysticism about the ark because of basically, it's a it's a place for the divine to commune with us, right? It's a symbol. God doesn't need it. I mean, he can do that with us in any way, but it was the way of formalizing things, like a throne room, right, where you hold court. That's to me, that's very much of what the ark kind of symbolizes to me. But with very real power. Nernath, he asked God about a battle, but took for granted that he could totally move the ark, no problem. Funny that he asked God, will you go with me to fight? Then just assume he could take God wherever. I mean, God's going to show he doesn't need people to carry the ark, but he wants us to. He asked God when he needed something, but when God said something that he required, David did not think to ask. And because we all know, because of Indiana Jones, we all know it kills Nazis and melts faces. Amen. It's a great scene. Emmanuel Sorio, aka it's all Erebus's fault, aka I mean the chaos way of worshiping gods, as in a book of human flesh. Yeah, a lot of red flags were ignored. A lot of red flags were ignored. The ark and the rainbow. Remember, the rainbow is God's promise not to drown us again. Yes, right. There's a lot of things go into, and if you get into Catholicism, there's even more symbolism and mysticism behind the ark. And maybe it's right. I don't know. I'm gonna cut in real quick. Porcupine, good night, guys. Got to cut out early to care for the sick biscuit. I like that. Take it easy, Porcupine. Hope your daughter gets better. I'm praying for her. Go. There you go, girl. Go. It's bedtime for her. Bedtime for her. Everybody say goodbye. Goodbye, Pupper. Good night, Pupper. Good night, Pupper, and good night, Porcupine. There you go. It's funny. All right. Where were we at? Oh, we were going back to reading. So the Levites appointed He-Man, son of Joel, from his relatives, Asaph, son of Berechiah, and from their relatives the Merarites, Ethan, son of Cushiah, and with them their relatives next in rank, Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemirath, daggone it, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Messiah, Matithia, Eliphalu. Oh, wait, Eliphalahu, Micniah, Obed-Edom, Jael, the gatekeepers. Good night. Let's go back to He-Man. He-Man was easy to read. I just hate that the LGBTQ have taken the rainbow. They haven't taken the rainbow. They think they've taken the rainbow. You can't take anything from God that he doesn't give you, and he hasn't given them that. And they might identify with it, but woo-wee, is that going to be a rude awakening when they find out what that rainbow is all about? Spriggan just referenced that the techno magic MacGuffin is what caused Sodom and Gomorrah. Love me some silly anime Bible reference. Oh, yeah, because I'm watching Record of Ragnarok right now. Oh, yeah, Emmanuel, you're right. Watching Record of Ragnarok, which is, it's okay, right? There's a lot of over the top emoting, which is not uncommon with anime. Over the top emoting, too many cutscenes, that stuff that they need to front load or hit on the back end in the middle of the action. Stop cutting the action. Start cutting the action in the middle up with sidebars. All the stuff that they discuss in the middle of the fight, front load it or send it to the back. I'm right in the middle of Adam fighting Zeus. And, obviously, obviously they get it wrong from the get-go because they're like, Adam hated God. Adam loved God. Adam didn't rebel out of anything other than just temptation. And he was shamed for it. He was ashamed of it. But if a Christian biblical character beats up a Greek, the Greek God, we'll see how that goes. I was surprised that out of everybody, the strongest man that they picked was Lu Bu, and then immediately I start going back to my Dynasty Warrior, the Dynasty Warrior days. Lu Bu and Cow Cow running through there, but Lu Bu, really? That's who you picked for the strongest man to go up against Thor? I mean, I don't know. We'll see who else. I was very, but I was very um, confused that out of all the biblical folks they could have picked, they picked Adam, but whatever. It's very interesting. Have you ever seen the new LGBT alphabet, etc. flags? They don't know what a rainbow is yet. They've added they don't really know what they're doing. Confusion is a confusing thing. Adam fight is fun. Season 2 proves quote unquote strongest man isn't the right translation. Yeah, well, I hope for their sake it's not. But otherwise, I mean, it's interesting enough that I'm still watching it. Plus, it's been assigned to me, and I asked for the assignment, so I'm going to do that and give it the full watch treatment and report back from my normie self. And there you go. The musicians, He-Man, really like that name. I really like that He-Man is a name is a biblical name. The musicians He-Man, Asaph, and Ethan were to sound the bronze cymbals. Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Messiah, and Benaiah were to play the lyres according to Alamoth, and the Matithia, Eliphaluhu, Micneiah, Obed-Edom, Jael, and Azaziah were to play the harps, directing according to Sheminith. Kenaniah, the head Levite, was in charge of the singing. That was his responsibility because he was skillful at it. So there we go. Remember, we're curious about your thoughts in light of Fate Zero. Okay. Currently, I like Fate Zero better. But again, but a big part of that is lack of cutscenes in the middle of the action. Or sidebarring in the middle of the action. The action's still pretty much the action. But I'm only one fight into this as well. They've just started fighting. So here we are. God likes music, right? There are non-musical Protestant denominations. Church of Christ, there is a segment of the Church of Christ. I don't know if it's all of them, but a segment of them that are not instrumental. It is all voice, all hymns. And there is a lot of more scholarly, more learned flavors of Christianity that kind of look down on the more contemporary worship. I'm a hymnal man myself, but I can, and I don't, a good hymn really speaks to me, but musical worship or worship through music is not where I get to God. I get to God through this fellowship, discussion, ponderance, right? The camaraderie, that kind of stuff, and prayer and reflecting on things. Music isn't that. I can see other people who get to that where their faith, their communion with God is strongest during worship music. whether it be a hymn or contemporary music, that puts them in the right place. And that opens them up to receive the word better. My wife is one of them. She loves it. And it was a big, I think it was a strong method of getting her, of her becoming saved. So it's no surprise that God enjoys music. And it's in the Bible that it's in the Bible that David was a musician of some skill, enough that God enjoyed his songs. And we'll learn about some of them. So it's pretty cool. So and I think that is a testament to that is a mark against folks who look down on contemporary worship music, or people who worship music gets their spiritual motor going versus study, right? And scholarship. It's easy for them to look down on them, and I think that is a fault against them, not the other folks. Now, the people who only show up for the music, that's a different story. But to assume that of people is to be myopic. That's a good one, Blaine. I like that perspective. If woodpeckers didn't exist, I could believe a no instrument argument, but even nature uses tools to make noise. The sounds of nature are a beautiful thing, even in its silence. Just in the wind. And no, I'm not going to go in some Disney song now, like in Pocahontas. We're not doing that. It's pagan worship anyway. Berechiah and Elkanah were to be doorkeepers. Berechiah and Elkanah were to be doorkeepers for the ark. Shebaniah, Joshaphat, Nethanel, Amasai, Zechariah, Benaiah, and Eleazar, the priest, were to blow trumpets before the ark of God. Obed-Edom and Jehiah were also to be doorkeepers for the ark. Okay, so hey, he needs his entourage. He needs his procession, or he desires a procession. Pocahontas, aka the only song Savage is barely even human, the most base song from Disney. Gosh, this is the problem with the Disney Pocahontas movie. Completely historically illiterate. So weird how they did that, which is odd because I think I can't think of a single like historical moment that they did like that. Like Pocahontas, like it took a true historical figure with real interactions and just fictionalized it. Incredibly fictionalized it. So David and the elders of Israel and the commanders of units of 1,000 went to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord from the house of Obed-Edom with rejoicing, because God had helped the Levites who were carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. 7 bulls and 7 rams were sacrificed. Now David was clothed in a robe of fine linen, as were all the Levites who were carrying the ark, and as were the musicians and Kenaniah, who was in charge of the singing of the choirs. David also wore a linen ephod. So all Israel brought up the ark of the covenant of the Lord with shouts, with the sounding of rams' horns and trumpets, and of cymbals, and the playing of lyres and harps. As the ark of the covenant of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window, and when she saw King David dancing and celebrating, she despised him in her heart. Michal was the first Baptist. No dancing allowed. That's my joke. It will always be my joke, even if it's not funny. Michal, if you guys weren't here for the first review of this, Michal's relationship with David is strained. She has a lot going on. And it's a very odd relationship. When, like all women, pay attention to me, of course. Well, here's the thing, okay? Her dad was Saul, right? And Saul was a troubled man. Saul was a man who could be affable and likable one moment and totally despicable the next. When she was presented, given by Saul to David as a way of, tying David to him a bit, I think. Let's go back. Part of the reason we do this review is because I don't always understand. I am sometimes wrong. All right. Here's David and Goliath. That's what it was. Okay. Saul was afraid of David. Yes, Nernath, you're getting there. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had departed from Saul. So he sent David away from him and gave him command over 1,000 men. And David led the troops in their campaigns. Of course, in everything he did, he had great success because David's a total Chad because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. Again, this is Saul. We review Saul's been rebuked. And he knows that David's a threat, but instead of just embracing that fact, he doesn't. He resents it. He resents David because of his own failings, which is not again, totally human response. Something that we could all find ourselves doing, even though it's the wrong thing to do. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. Saul said to David, "Here is my older daughter, Merab. I will give her to you in marriage. Only serve me bravely and fight the battles of the Lord." For Saul said to himself, "I will not raise a hand against him. Let the Philistines do that." Point of of order here. Did Saul not realize that that's what the Philistines have been trying to kill him for a while, and they can't because David is fighting with righteousness and with the favor of God? You think this is again, Saul just not realizing how this is all going to happen. But David said to Saul, "Who am I? And what is my family or my clan in Israel that I should become the king's son-in-law?" Out of humility, genuine humility. So when the time came for Merab, Saul's daughter, to be given to David, she was given in marriage to Adriel of Meholah. Now Saul's daughter Michal was in love with David. And when they told Saul about it, he was pleased. "I will give her to him," he thought, "so that she may be a snare to him, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." Honeypotting your own daughter, by the way. So Saul said to David, "Now you have a second opportunity to become my son-in-law." And David still being, "Look, I mean, that's a great offer and I'm very humble, but I don't feel like I deserve it." So Saul basically has to push her at him. The king wants no other price for the bride than 100 Philistine foreskin. That's right. He wants 100 Philistine foreskins to take revenge on his enemies. Saul's plan was to have David fall by the hands of the Philistines. Great plan, Saul. Bold strategy. When the attendants told David these things, he was pleased. Got to get the chopping these foreskins. So before the allotted time elapsed, David took his men with him and went out and killed 200 Philistines and brought back their foreskins. They counted out the full number to the king so that David might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave his daughter Michal in marriage. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David and that his daughter Michal loved David, Saul became still more afraid of him, and he remained his enemy the rest of his days. I mean, very understandable. David was the come up, but didn't want to pass the torch or help build him up. Remember, most men want to help other men to build them up. That's what they should do. That's what they should do. And I think we do it more than women do to other women. I think women do more to hurt each other in competition than men do. But you will find men who will absolutely stab you in the back on their way, if you are in their way, or if you're a perceived threat to your own descendants. Honorable men and honorable women will help each other out and delight and joy in the success of others as they too are successful. I find it funny that's foreskins, not the heads of his enemies. You know why it is? Or why I think this is? The Israelites, as part of their covenant, are already circumcising themselves. Right? This is already a practice of the Israelites. You bring the Philistines, you bring back a foreskin of a fully grown man, then it wasn't an Israelite. It was somebody else. It's proof. It's proof. I don't know what the overall condition of foreskin is after battle. I know that heads can take some grievous wounds, so maybe it's a little bit uglier. But I don't know what the general condition of foreskin after battle is. It's never been something I ever checked. Oh, Emmanuel, this goes all the way back to Joseph, to back in the days of Joseph. I think it was Joseph. Maybe it was Abraham. I have to go back. No, it wasn't Abraham. I think it's Joseph. Jacob's sons. I think it was Jacob's sons. Nernath says, then when Saul tried to kill David, she helped him escape, then lied that David threatened her. She was then married off to another. You see, he's going to. David threatened her. She was then married off to another guy who David would murk to get her back. You said it almost exactly how I would have put it too, Nernath. So it's not gay to grab another man's pee-pee to keep their foreskin. Not after they're dead. Not after they've been deaded. Now that's hardcore, man. Old Testament was wild, dude. I knew about the covenant, but that to take your enemy's foreskin. No, so here's the best one, Emmanuel. Here's the best one. All right, we're gonna go back a little bit more because we can, right? Because we're almost at the end of our reading anyway. Let's go back to Genesis. And let's see. Dinah and the Shechemites. I think this is it. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, had been born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the field with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk to Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's son had come in from the fields, and as soon as they heard what had happened, they were shocked and furious, as good brothers would be. Nico, don't do that. Don't twist those. Don't twist those words. Shechem's father Hamor went to talk to Jacob. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him." Oh, yeah. Okay. The one that he's already taken and raped. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That's so neighborly of you, rapist. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife." Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace for us. We will enter into agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughter and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we will take our sister and go." The proposal seemed good to Hamor. Okay. Look. Circumcision done to a newborn baby is nothing that they'll ever remember. It's not the pain receptors aren't the same. The memory isn't the same. We're talking about circumcising a full-grown man the old way. Take your blade and just start. In essence, let's stick your penis in a pencil sharpener, right? Shechem goes, this seems fair. Okay. In all fairness, as in their name is kind of saying it here, ruling out the grape, Shechem seems like a more honorable dude than some others. He is to a degree, except for the fact he raped her and then decided to do all this. He is overcome with lust over this woman. And he is not a follower of God. He's circumcising himself for the woman, not for God's pleasure. But in fairness, at least he is very committed to this desire. He is very committed because, I mean, guys, how much would you have to be enamored with a lady to do this to yourself? Right? The young man, who was most honored to all of his father's family, lost no time in doing what they said because he was delighted. Oh, he did it gleefully. Yeah, guys, look at this. He was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. "These men are friendly towards us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are." Oh, yeah, threw that little part at the end. But there's one condition. Got to cut your penis up. Ultimate simpery. This is ridiculous levels of simpery. But at least it involves, like he's not like sympathy. It's not like simpery today. A lot of simping today involves acting almost as a in a feminine way, right? Being passive aggressive with other people, right? Virtue signaling, doing that kind of stuff. At least if you're going to simp, be a man in how you simp. Oh yeah, you want me to? You think I won't cut this for you? For yeah. Woo! Not only am I going to do it for me, I'm going to convince all my friends to do it too, because that's exactly what's going to do. Yeah, I want to bet they drew straws on who would be the last to go. Just thinking, there was at least one guy that had to cut himself or get someone who had just gotten the snip to do him. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe had the women do it. Who knows? Nico go, hey, better to cut the foreskin than the whole dick by her father, by her brothers and dad. No, he's not simping. He is simping for the chick. He's absolutely simping for the chick. Because he's not converting. He's doing it because he's put it on a pedestal that he's already raped. Shechem's a weird dude. Let's not belabor the point. Shechem's a weird dude. So he proposes, he just gives this out to the guys. But the men will agree to live with us under one condition. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us. Seems like there's a little bit of scheming going on as well. Look, a little bit of pain now, and then we'll take advantage of them later. And I get the chick. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. Quite a feat. She must have been quite a looker, by the way. She must have been quite a beauty for, because the way it's like, look, the rest of Jacob's daughters and his son's daughters will be ours as well. And they're like, oh, they'll all look like her. We'll all do it too. And here's the punchline. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and went out into the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. Basically, you've done something that might be the equivalent of throwing rocks at a hornet's nest. Murder hornets that can kill all of us. But I like this response from Simeon and Levi. I don't know if it's the right response, but it feels like something I would say. It feels right to me. But the Bible doesn't actually say who is actually right in this. It's just something that, because again, not everything that happens in the Bible is God teaching us an abject lesson like a parable, right? This is especially in Genesis, talking about historical accounts. This is just what happened. But here's what Simeon and Levi say to their dad. But they replied, Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? And that's where that story ends, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Then the story goes on. But that's how he's like, Jacob's got a legitimate worry. And he's probably still pissed about what happened to his daughter. And he's probably incredibly mad at Shechem, and there's probably no love lost there. But what he's worried about as the head, the patriarch of the family, which is more than just these two brothers, but all of his brothers, all 12 of his sons, his wives, and their kids. This is before. This may be in the Bible. This is recorded before Joseph, the story of Joseph. But Jacob has legitimate concerns to be. He's responsible for the safety and the well-being of the entirety of the family, and now they're at risk, right? But at the same time, how much at risk are they at? God's on their side. Of course, then you got to consider, what if what we did was evil in the eyes of the Lord? Probably very stressful for Jacob as a whole. But as it turns out, it worked out for them, because Jacob, who was already a somewhat wealthy man, is now infinitely more wealthy, and he's got. They say a city. It's probably a town. It's probably more closer to a town. But even then, they got all the plunder. And there you have it. So we're way down the rabbit hole there. But yeah, that's the ultimate. You mess around, you're gonna find out that chart right there, raping someone's sister, a sister with 12 brothers. Maybe you don't piss off all of the brothers to the point where they want to have you cut your own foreskin off and then murder you while you're writhing in pain in your base, killing your dudes. All your base are belong to us. But there's good odds that at least a few of them are going to be at that level. And in Simeon and Levi's case, they were there. Of course. Should have seen it coming. Don't mess with someone's kid. Exactly. But look, that's a that's a very convoluted way to get there. But are we really sad about rapists? She was a real life waifu to them. Crazy. Yeah. All right. So Michael, as Nernath said earlier, after this whole spat, during this whole spat between Saul and David, Michael's already married to David, but David leaves, and maybe he doesn't come back in the ways he does. I'm not trying to defend Michael, but I think that there's a lot going on with her. She's not just a jerk just because she's a jerk. She's had a lot. She's had a lot to bring her to this point. Oh, also, her husband leaves her and then comes back with two other wives and kids. So she's probably a little salty about that. Probably a little salty about that. Where we at? Warriors join David. Did I skip a chapter? I did. Guys, we're going to have to go back. Oops. Oops. Deck on it. Oh, well. All right. Anyway. All right. It didn't feel like we skipped. Yeah, I thought there was something. We went to 15. We went to 15 when it should have been 13 and 14. We did 14 and 15 because I started earlier. My bad, guys. My bad. All right, let's finish 15 and then we'll go back and do 13. Sorry, guys. Manuel, it's like saying, hey, I just committed a Geneva war crimes, and they'd be like, what's a war crime? Yeah. It 15. Where's 14? Where's 15? There we go. The Ark of the Covenant of the Lord was entering the city of David. Michael's. Oh, we did finish 15. Okay, so we're going to go back. We did finish 15. So we're going to go back to 13. Bringing back the Ark. David so let's prequel this, right? Let's prequel this. David conferred with each of his officers, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. And he said to the whole assembly of Israel, if it seems good to you, and if it is the will of the Lord our God, let us send word far and wide to the rest of our people throughout the territories of Israel, and also to the priests and Levites who are with them in their towns and pasturelands to come and join us. Let us bring the ark of our God back to us, for we did not inquire of it during the reign of Saul. We neglected it. We neglected him during the reign of Saul. Yes. Yes. So if we go back to that, stop it. If you see a lot of me scrolling on here, it's because my mouse wheel hates me. Does this crap all the time. Here we go. Here we go. So where is the ark at this point? All right, so we're going to go back before Saul was even king. We're going to go back to the very end of the judges period. This is 1 Samuel 6. All right. The ark's been the Eli, Saul's mentor, had some wicked sons. And the Israelites behaved poorly, right? And so the Philistines come. They bring the ark out with them. The Lord goes, nope. Nope. I'm not doing it. The Philistines beat up the Israelites and take the ark with them. This is another great story for you. So the Philistines have the ark. But guess what? God doesn't like the Philistines either. And so the entire time they have the ark, it's bad. Let's see. After the Philistines had captured the Ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. They carried the ark from Dagon's temple and set it beside Dagon. When the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, there was Dagon, who was a false god idol, fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon, put him back in his place. But the following morning, when they arose, there was Dagon, fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. His head and hands had been broken off and were lying on the threshold. Only his body remained. The Lord's hand was heavy on the people of Ashdod and its vicinity. He brought devastation on them and afflicted them with tumors. When the people of Ashdod saw what was happening, they said, "The ark of the God of Israel must not stay here with us because his hand is heavy on us and on Dagon, our God." Yeah. Dagon was a fish god in fertility time. Yes. Going back to, I learned this in The Witcher, actually, playing the first Witcher game. Look, your God's so powerful. The other guy's God's vehicle that you took is destroying your God. We have to get it out of here. And also, lol, God won a staring contest with an idol. Of course he did. That's not surprising at all. But basically, this stuff happens wherever they try. They move the ark all over the place in the different Philistine towns. They're doing it all over the place. And every place they take it, stuff like this happens. So they're sick of it, right? We've got to do something. When the ark of the Lord had been in Philistine territory 7 months, the Philistines called for the priest and the diviners and said, "What shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us how we should send it back to its place." They answered, "If you return the ark of the God of Israel, do not send it back to him without a gift. By all means, send a guilt offering to him." Basically, we're going to send it back with an apology. We're sorry for what we've done. They were so happy when they took this and they were going to put it up as a prize. And here they are now, so ready to be rid of this thing that they're going to send it basically with, "We're sorry we took this. Please don't anymore. please make the hurting stop. It hurts so bad." so they give them what the guilt offering is. And how are they going to do it? Let's see. Now, get a cart ready with 2 cows that have calved and have never been yoked. Hitch the cows to the cart. So basically, cows that are not trained to be pulling a plow or a wagon or anything. Hitch the cows to the cart, but take their calves away and pen them up. Take the ark of the Lord and put it on the cart and in the chest beside it. Basically, they want to send it wild out. Maybe it'll be a runaway cart and it'll fly into a ravine somewhere. Take the ark of the Lord and put it in the cart in the chest beside it. Put the gold objects you are sending back to him as a guilt offering. Send it on its way, but keep watching it, for if it goes up to its own territory toward Beth Shemesh, then the Lord has brought this great disaster on us. But if it does not, then we will know that it was not his hand that struck us, but that it happened to us by chance. Pretty smart, right? If pretty smart. Look, we're going to send these wild animals on their way with the ark in tow. If they go back to Israel, we know what's going on. If it isn't, if they just go out into the wilderness somewhere, we know that it's probably not. So they did this. Then the cows went straight up towards Beth Shemesh, keeping on the road and lowing all the way. They did not turn to the right or to the left. They just went straight down the road. They didn't yield for cyclists, and they didn't care if you used your turn signal. That train is coming. Do not get in its way. The rulers of the Philistines followed them as far as the border of Beth Shemesh. So, some other shenanigans happen while the ark is in Beth Shemesh, right? They weren't being as reverent with the ark. They were treating it as a curiosity, which is probably the fault of any Levites who were in the area who didn't tell them stop and stay away. But God struck down some of the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, putting 70 of them to death because they looked into the ark of the Lord. We've all seen the Indiana Jones movie. If you haven't, watch Raiders of the Ark. The people mourned because of the heavy blow the Lord had dealt them. Yeah, well, don't do this. And the people of Beth Shemesh asked, who can stand in the presence of the Lord, this holy God? To whom will the ark go up from here? Then they sent messengers to the people of Kiriath Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to your town. So the men of Kiriath Jearim came down and took up the ark of the Lord. They brought it to Abinadab's house on the hill and consecrated Eleazar, his son, to guard the ark of the Lord. The ark remained at Kiriath Jearim a long time, 20 years in all. There you go. So now we'll go back to Chronicles. So Saul never comes and gets the ark, which is pretty much a decent testament to how much time God actually occupied in his mind. The ark's over there. He didn't go, hey, you want me to bring you back to the capital? Maybe hang out in Jerusalem? I don't know. You want us to kind of put you at the center of our power and commune with you daily or on a semi-regular basis? No, Saul doesn't do any of that. Yeah, sometimes we keep God at arm's length. But here he is saying that. Let us bring the ark of our God back to us, for we did not inquire of it during the reign of Saul. The whole assembly agreed to do this because it seemed right to all the people. Yeah, it did. And I think that they use a footnote when they said we did not inquire of it, they say we neglected it. So David assembled all of Israel, because it's still all one nation. It's not Judah and Israel. It's all Israel. David assembled all of Israel from the Shihor River in Egypt to Labo Hamath to bring the ark of God from Kiriath Jearim. David and all Israel went to Bela of Judah, Kiriath Jearim, to bring up from there the ark of the God, the Lord, who is enthroned between the cherubim, the ark that is called by the name. They moved the ark of God from Abinadab's house on a new cart, with Uzzah and Ahio guiding it. David and all the Israelites were celebrating with all their might before God, with songs and harps, lyres, timbrels, cymbals, and trumpets. When they came to the threshing floor of Kidon, Uzzah reached out his hand to steady the ark because the oxen stumbled. The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah, and he struck him down because he had put his hand on the ark. So he died there before God. We can talk about how hardcore the things are. God is very strict and has put a lot of weight on his commandments, especially to those in with responsibility. Then David was angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah, and to this day this place is called Perez Uzzah. David was afraid of God that day and asked, how can I ever bring the ark of God to me? He did not take the ark to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it to the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite, who we've mentioned a little bit. The ark of God remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house for 3 months, and the Lord blessed his household and everything he had. So, hey, you're going to have me as your guest here? It's going to be good for you. All right, so that's 13 through 15. Let's Chronicles 14, 15, and then 13. And there you have it. What we got here? Blaine's getting ready to stream. That's what it is. So there you have it. And we're right at an hour 30. So let's go ahead and close out with that. Ponder on those thoughts. Ponder on those thoughts. We talked about a lot of shenanigans that went on in the Old Testament so far. I like that. I like that we've been here far enough that we can go back, that we have a lot of reference to go back to and a lot of things to discuss as well. All right, so there we go. So tomorrow's open topic. Bring things you want to talk about. Nico, I know you said that you had something. Nernath, I know you've got something up your sleeve. Anybody else? Like I said, let's talk about whatever. Let's ring this weekend. Let's bring this weekend in with some laughter or some sort of relaxing topic. Anyway, so to Nico, Felty, Emmanuel, Nernaeth. Let's go back. Blaine, Porcupine, who's left. Hopefully his daughter's feeling better, starting to feel better soon. Dresden. And that's the group tonight. Those of you in the chat. CB train robbery? I'll do it. Good stream, guys. Lots of tangents, but I learned a lot. Yeah, we did have a lot of tangents. Glad you could make it. This might be on there. You got to remind me, Renate, because I'm not going to remember. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. For those of you guys who are in the chat, thank you for giving me something to play off of, giving me your impressions, your thoughts, your questions on things. It, like I said, I can't express enough, but I make sure I try to do it every stream. You make the show better by you being here. And so I'm glad that you're here. I get more out of this show because you're here than if I was just running this again. And something that Emmanuel said earlier, I'm not sure if I read it, but I did see it. Being in chat with you guys, learning like if I was just converted again. That's a lot of times like what reading the Bible from beginning to end will do to you. That extra perspective, right? The reminder of things that you learned in Sunday school as a kid, or maybe occasionally through a Bible study or a sermon, you're reminded of that. And there are other things that, you just haven't come across yet that you see and you go, oh, I didn't know that happened. Ooh, that's good. I can carry it. And it's great because you can go through even, we go through the genealogy. It's hard to pull stuff out of genealogy for like everyday application. This is more for the scholars to do. But when we talk about this stuff up here with David defeating the Philistines or discussing why Saul said, you can go through a chapter or two chapters and get plenty of content that will help you grow spiritually, help put things in better perspective for you in your life, and understand more about what's going on in the Bible. Why are people doing the things that they said? Why was God so harsh on the Israelites? Maybe God was a little overbearing in the Old Testament. Was he? Like he does have a heavy hand at times. But how much patience has he been showing from the beginning, since the flood, since Moses, since the Exodus, since, every single time they screw up? And again, that's us. And how much patience does he have with us? Lots. Because we matter to him. We matter to him. We are insignificant in comparison to him. But that does not mean we are insignificant in his heart. So don't ever sell yourself short, and put all your faith in God. So thanks, guys, in the chat. Any of you folks who are watching along and didn't comment, I don't care. That's great. I always encourage people to participate in the chat, but if you just want to listen, just want to be a wallflower, that's great too. Just glad to have, glad that I can be some content that you enjoy consuming, and I'm glad it's something where you find it wholesome enough to return to. To all the folks catching us on the replay, glad I'm giving you something to listen to on the back end. All right. In the meantime, guys, tomorrow's Friday, barreling in towards the weekend. We'll be on here for our off-topic night. And remember, it happens. Be flexible with the schedule on that, because that happens whenever I'm able to put the kids, get the kids settled. That's a family night. And so when they go to bed, then I'll broadcast. In the meantime, guys, have a great night, and God bless.